Our unit was flying March 13th, 1997 as part of Operation Snowbird, and we were conducting night training. This is a map of the training area that we use when we fly in the airplane.
According to the Maryland Air National Guard, the illumination flares were deployed, fell, and disappeared from sight, behind the mountain range seen in the video.
On March 13, 1997, a silent, mile-long V formation of lights traveled throughout the entire state of Arizona over a 2-hour period. Thousands of Arizona residents watched in awe as it slowly passed over their homes. I personally witnessed and photographed these huge amber orbs which suddenly appeared over the city of Phoenix at 10 p.m. that evening. To this day, the phenomena still remains unexplained. Was it military?
There's a lot more to the story than just March 13th.
This is not video from the night of March 13th, 1997.
I don't know what they are, but I know that they are.
A Paradise Valley doctor says she took this footage March 5th. And nearly 2 months before this, she snaps these photos.
As I'm ready to shoot the 3 in a row, suddenly 6 lights across appear in an equidistant line. It was startling. Not only was it a massive span, more than a mile wide, in retrospect, it was the same formation in the same location as March 13th, but this was January 23rd, 97.
This is what many saw and videotaped on March 13th, and what started all the fuss. Here, a simple rendering of what that thing may have looked like. Huge, moving, hovering, changing.
All I know is that as I saw the stars being wiped out, one by one, as this big triangular black mass moved through the sky, it was just tremendous.
Some reported orange lights, some reported white lights. Some said 5 lights, others said 7.
I'm really taking a chance here, I am, and I know that I am coming forward.
Dr. Lynn, a Paradise Valley physician licensed with the state, says she's seen such things around the Phoenix Valley as far back as 1995.
Being criticized, being ridiculed, being discredited, the scary proposition to come forward, to say the least.
These are some of the actual drawings and renderings witnesses of the Phoenix Lights have filed. What's often overlooked about that night is that many people say they saw things separate of this craft. Some witnesses say they saw orange or amber balls of light.
January of 97, I happened to notice 3 huge amber balls, orbs, of light in a row, equidistant from each other, far west behind the city.
Here is a rendering of those balls of light as she and others have described them.
You could see this huge orange ball of light. It was completely coherent. There was no kind of flaring of the light around it. It was very precise.
We have pilots, we have attorneys, we have physicians, we have architects, we have members of law enforcement, we have air traffic controllers, all of whom saw the same thing at the same time. This was probably the most dramatic UFO event that I've ever heard about.
It's opened my consciousness up to realize that, you know, we have to share the universe. I don't believe that we are alone.
If it wasn't benevolent, we'd know about it a long time ago.
The question remains, what was it? I'm unable to answer that with any accuracy or with any certainty of being correct.
I don't know. I don't know. I hope they come back. When they do, it's very exciting.
The National Guard put on an air show to demonstrate that the 1997 Phoenix Lights were in fact Air Force flares and not UFOs. They parachuted down several flares in various V-shaped formations, but many thought the shapes of the flares didn't match up with the lights seen back in 1997. They noticed that many of the flares flickered and moved erratically.
Tim Lee and his family are among the hundreds of witnesses who've come forward to talk about the night of March 13th, an event now known as the Phoenix Lights. The Lees first saw the lights while looking north from their home in the Sunny Slope Mountains.
When it finally got here and we realized this thing was coming right over us, we really started getting antsy, and then when it went directly overhead without a sound, it was like that. It was so big.
You couldn't even hear the wind. It was so quiet. It was just, It just didn't even do anything. It just came through.
These images of what they saw are made on a computer. They're a combination of digital photos of the landscape taken by Lee and computer drawings of the objects his family saw in the sky.
It was a giant V, all right? And the right side of the V went over us. The left side was like a couple blocks over it.
I just didn't know what to do. You know, it was just like, my God, how big is this thing? It didn't seem threatening, but because when it was right overhead and we couldn't hear a sound, it was like you're just awestruck.
Jim Delatoso has been researching UFOs for 20 years. Right now, he's in the middle of putting together a virtual reality model of what happened that night. He's talked to hundreds of witnesses about the night of March 13th, including the Lees.
He thinks that he said if he had a tennis ball, he could have hit it. He could have thrown a tennis ball at it. It was that close.
It was very close. He just could have nailed it.
I consider Tim Lee and his family to be very reliable and very important in the data that they've given us because they were so close that they could look up and, as they said, almost touch it.
The last light went right over my wife and I, and there was no light on the ground. But I could see up inside that it was almost like a recess, and it had fluorescent like light inside, like a gas light of some kind.
You could see right through the middle of it, but it was like looking through two-way glass, like through a mirage that you see on the highway or something, or just when it's real hot. Right there, you can see through, but there's no light coming back or anything like that. It was just really weird.
This is the first time in the series of reports of that night that someone said that they looked up and saw a structured object.
As it went over, it went straight like through this V right there, over that guy's house.
It took about 15 minutes to get from way up from when we first saw it all the way till we couldn't saw it.
No one knows for sure what happened that night in the skies over Arizona in March, but thousands of people saw something. It's a night the Lees will never forget.
We just re-experience it every time we tell it. You know, it's like it was just yesterday. You know, we've just never seen anything like it.
I was always a very polite skeptic. I would never tell someone, if they told me they saw something, I would never say, you're a liar or anything like that, because I don't know. But now I don't know what to think, because this is impossible.
State of Arizona, Fife Symington.
The former governor, a Vietnam Air Force veteran, had never publicly acknowledged seeing it until now.
And I suspect that unless the Defense Department proves us otherwise, that it was probably some form of an alien spacecraft.
So why didn't he say anything then? Partly, he says, because he didn't want people to panic.
I think as a public figure you have to be very careful about what you say, because people can have pretty emotional reactions, And I said my goal wasn't to try to stir the pot.
And he went to humorous and controversial lengths not to stir the pot. He held a news conference after the Phoenix Lights to announce the mystery had been solved.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Don't get him too close to me, please.
In the alien costume, the governor's chief of staff.
This just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
UFO enthusiasts were not amused, especially since the governor was believed to have seen nothing. But now he's coming out.
The lights were really brilliant, and it was just fascinating. I mean, it was enormous. It just felt otherworldly. You know, in your gut, you could just tell it was otherworldly.